Welcome to our channel. Get ready for a collection of incredible stories that will send shivers down your spine. If you love mystery and horror, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us bring you more thrilling content. Now, turn off the lights, get comfortable, and let's dive into the stories. Hello, dear reader. I want to tell you my story. Whether you believe it or not is up to you. It all started a month ago. My wife became a sleepwalker. Of course, we were going to do something about it, as there is little chance that will happen to her during sleepwalking. The doctors prescribed some drugs, but they didn't help much. To be more precise, they didn't help at all. So, one night I woke up out of necessity. As soon as I opened my eyes, I noticed my wife in the corner of our bedroom. She was twitching and whispering. "Darling, what are you doing?" I asked sleepily. She slowly turned around to face me. Her face was contorted in a wicked smile, her eyes glowing and her features sharp. I automatically hid under the blanket and squeezed my eyes shut. After a while I opened them and saw my wife sleeping on the bed as if none of this had happened. Cautiously, I went to the bathroom. In the morning, my wife had no memory of the night's incident. Usually she remembers something, even if it's vague. But this is still a flower. A week after the accident, the same thing happened. I came home late. My wife was nowhere to be found. Then I found her in the pantry. Her limbs were wriggling and stretching, her mouth still in the same evil, even demonic, smile, her facial features even sharper. Her eyes rolled white. I immediately ran out of the house. It wasn't until morning that I returned. I found my wife in the kitchen. She was holding a knife in her hand and her stomach was slashed. I quickly brought her to her senses, took 3 days off and went to the hospital. The doctors only spread their hands, saying that I was imagined, and my wife cut herself during a fit of sleepwalking. Without further argument, I sent my wife home, and I went to churches and psychics. Soon, I managed to persuade a priest to perform a rite. Then I wanted to somehow get rid of my wife from such an unpleasant disease. When I came home with him, I accompanied him to my wife, but at the sight of her, he immediately ran out, saying only, "She can't be helped." And he was gone. Meanwhile, the wife began to deform. Every night, her limbs were stretched and twisted. She stopped eating and became incredibly thin. Her hair was falling out and her face looked like the face of a devil. I didn't know what to do to help her. No one wanted to help her. She cried all the time and complained of pain all over her body. She couldn't move normally, only with my help. My wife became like a rag doll. And then came today. I came home late again. A foul odor filled the house. And it was coming from the kitchen. When I got there, I saw my wife. Her body was like a stick, and her limbs were the same. There was no hair on her head. Her empty eyes stared at me, and saliva dripped from her toothy mouth. It was taller than I was, but it was not my wife. Its slouching back rubbed against the ceiling, making an unpleasant sound. At the sight of such a scene I screamed and rushed to my office. Here I crouched. Something scrapes against the door. I don't know why it hasn't broken it down yet, but I think it's playing with me. There's a revolver next to me. I loaded it with 1 bullet. And I know who's gonna get it. And that was just one chilling tale, but we're not done yet. Get ready, because the next story might be even more terrifying. It all started about a month ago, at the beginning of the school year. I had just entered a prestigious institute in Moscow. I studied hard, even worked a little part-time. I wasn't sleeping enough, and it was taking its toll on me. And then one day I wake up in the middle of the night and realize I can't move. I can't even open my mouth. I can't even open my eyes. I realize I'm a sleep paraplegic. I looked around for a monster, but I didn't have to look long. The monster came to me. Something came out of a dark corner of the room. I don't even know how to describe it, but I'll try. It was naked and bald, twisted and hunchbacked. one eye bigger than the other. There was no mouth, instead a slit up to the ears on its chin. The creature came right up to my bed, hissed vilely, and began stroking my cheek with its clawed hand. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't. I just mooed helplessly. The monster kept stroking and stroking my cheek. Soon I woke up abruptly and got out of bed. Looking around, I realized I was alone in the room. Then I walked around all day. Soon it came back. I was in a hurry to catch my bus. I managed to get to the back of the bus, paying for my ticket, of course. It was a long way to my house, so I decided to take a nap. But I had to open my eyes. There was no one on the bus. I couldn't move. I noticed a creature. It was sitting next to me, right next to me, just staring at me. I looked away so I wouldn't see it. And I hoped it would be over soon. The driver woke me up. I was at the end of the line. It was a 30-minute walk home. At home, I got coffee and drank liters of it just to stay awake. I haven't slept in 3 days. I'm writing this story now. And it's something to see me do it. And I feel like there's someone else besides him. I saw a shadow in the hallway light. And that was just one chilling tale, but we're not done yet. Get ready, because the next story might be even more terrifying. Victoria Dmitrievna walked to the bedroom where the boys slept, tapping her heels loudly and humming a newfangled song she had heard on the radio. Other boarding school workers were slowly coming in. When she met them, Victoria smiled radiantly and nodded. The day had just begun, there was a lot to do, but the young principal was going to do absolutely everything during the day. As long as it was morning, the most important thing could be taken care of. Good morning. It's time to get up, Victoria Dmitrievna said loudly as she entered the bedroom. The sleeping children fidgeted in their beds, not wanting to get up. They did not want to part with the sweet world of dreams and the warmth of the bed. Victoria kept insisting. Almost every time she came up and shook roughly by the shoulder. Why do you look like you're on a bender? The principal was indignant. One by one, the children got out of bed and dressed, rubbing their eyes sleepily. All of different ages, thin, pale. When they were dressed, the kids headed off to wash up and eat, except for one. A red-haired boy with a straight nose. So, Seryoza, today you have an important mission, Victoria Dmitrievna said seriously. The boy shuddered. He realized what was waiting for him. It was useless to resist, or the obese nannies would come, grab his arms and legs, and drag him to the special room. This was the name of one large room among the children, from which no one ever returns. Sergei obediently followed Victoria with his head down. He could not cry, he had already cried all his tears. He could only accept his terrible fate. It happened to every child, because no one would take them away anyway. Though Victoria Dmitrievna has a diploma of educator, she doesn't like children at all, that's why she lives alone. There was simply no other profession at the technical college which she could enter. On this Victoria, then still Vika, put an end to her modeling career. And the appearance of her was too attractive, long lush black hair, lush breasts, buttocks, nice shape and shapely legs. Still running crowds of men after such a beauty, but with a diploma Victoria did not go anywhere further. She began to float down the stream of life, folding her arms on her chest. She had to enroll in the local boarding school, which was about to close. In the kindergarten without experience are not taken, and the desire was still not to go there. Victoria was going to work here until it was closed, just to save up money. While the money is being saved, Victoria lives with her parents in a 2-room apartment. At the boarding school, the children were noisy and naughty, which made Victoria crazy every day. That's how one idea came to her, an extremely cruel one. The very special room, the former music classroom, she equipped as an operating room, where she conducted her gruesome experiments. All of this was done secretly. Among the staff are their own people, the check does not go, and children are not taken away from their families. It's a good time to get back at them. Victoria watched a lot of movies about psychopathic maniacs, read various medical articles, textbooks, books. She went from theory to practice. The nannies helped her in this, among them were those who worked in the hospital, particularly surgery. The secretary, a middle-aged woman, helped with the paperwork to keep everything in order. The old woman cook, Aunt Masha, who looked like a hippopotamus, cooked food from the poor kids and made the other kids eat it. This was the situation in boarding school number 17. A forgotten institution, shabby-looking. From the outside it may look like a long-abandoned building. There were cases of penetration of amateurs climbing through abandoned buildings, and they all ended very badly. This was the door that led to the special room. Sergei swallowed nervously, folding his hands together. Victoria Dmitrievna fiddled with the keys, and when the lock clicked, the door swung open and the smell of iron hit his nose. The principal grabbed the boy's hand and led him inside. Closing the door, she turned on the light. The room was illuminated, and an operating room appeared before them. There was a couch in the middle, and a table with a lot of instruments and accessories. All around the room there were various devices and cabinets. The tiled floor and white walls were covered with blood. It was cold and unpleasant. Sergei saw a door ajar in the room, from which came a strange sound, like a moan mixed with crying. It was dark behind that door. The boy did not want to know what or who was there. He didn't need to now, for now he would die. Meanwhile, Victoria Dmitrievna was getting ready for business. She had already put on her doctor's coat and mask, gathered her hair into a ponytail. In a minute 2 nurses came in, looking like each other. They looked like bouncers from a nightclub. "You know what to do," said the principal. The nannies silently took the boy by the hands, led him to the couch, tied him up tightly. All his clothes, not including his underwear, were on the floor. Sergei breathed often. Inside flashed a flame of hope for a miracle that would not happen. He wanted to say something, to beg, but the words wouldn't come out of his throat. The end had come. The surgery had begun, a very important case for the day. For Victoria, it wasn't just an operation, but a whole game where you could create anyone you wanted. It was a game called God. She thought of herself as such, just deified herself at such moments. Nannies considered angels, helping in this case. The boy was given anesthesia. The principal needed him alive. When the little eyes closed, the girl took the scalpel. One of the nannies held the boy's hand with her weighty palm so that nothing would interfere with Victoria. With deft movements, the principal began to drive the blade across his wrist, thereby stripping away skin and flesh. A scarlet puddle formed. After the scalpel, the girl took the hacksaw and proceeded to separate the bone. An unpleasant sound traveled through the room, but it did not distract from the work. The right palm was finished. Victoria Dmitrievna did the same with the other palm and feet. She took out a needle and thread. She sewed the feet to the hands and the palms to the feet. This took a lot longer than separating the body parts. The skin sometimes ripped, and I had to stitch the same place several times, just to be sure. On the cheeks I made a star pattern with thread. Pliers ripped off a few teeth, and instead of them inserted buttons. I took out the eyes and sewed up the eyelids. I put wax in his ears. I had to go to the warehouse to get candles for that. Injected a strange white liquid. No one knew what it was, but it was known to keep the subjects alive. Now it's done. The game is over. Another doll has been added to Victoria Dmitrievna's collection. You may go now. The nannies left, and Victoria put her new toy in her wheelchair and rolled to the ajar door, which smelled of rot, sweat, urine, and feces. The small room was illuminated by a dim light. All the dolls made by the principal were kept here. Here was a boy with 6 arms, crawling with difficulty like a spider. A girl with an extra leg sticking out of her crotch, completely devoid of arms. Twins stitched together so that one's penis entered the other's anus. This is your new home, Seryoza. Victoria Dmitrievna knelt down in front of the awake boy. She put her hands on his knees and stroked him affectionately. A woman's moans of pleasure came from the small room. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe to the channel. Until next time.